Any art academies achieving creative freedom through logic and discipline is a non-profit organization that provides an intensive multi-year art skill education to aspiring artists around the world. And with me to talk about this wonderful opportunity that Anguillians now have is Tim Reynolds. Tell us a bit about yourself.
I don't know, I guess I've always been interested in learning how to draw and paint, and I read a few books and realized from the books that it's a learned skill. I always thought it was something that, you know, people were born with. You know, we all remember people in early school that could just pick up a pencil and draw things really well. And I was never like that, but always thought it would be great if I could paint. And once I realized that it's strictly a learned skill, I became really interested in education, you know, art education. I found out that Van Gogh, who I think is a wonderful artist, was actually terrible for the first several years of his career, but he worked hard. So I went about trying to find really good teachers and was lucky enough in New Jersey to run into an artist and teacher named Tim John, J-A-H-N, and I was able to study with him. And he's young, he's, you know, under 30, and is still a student himself, and was looking for a great teacher that he could study with. And he met a man named Anthony Wachulis, who was teaching out of Pennsylvania, and started studying with him. And then his skill just sort of really exploded after that. And then,
what age you're talking about here for you?
For the school in Anguilla?
No, for that love for art.
Oh, I mean,
when you started.
I've always been interested. I just didn't know until, I'm 45 now, but about, I'd say 3 or 4 years ago was when I realized that you could learn. So I started reading books, trying to teach myself, and it's a passed skill from person to person. There are these family trees that people look at where you can trace your teacher to, you know, his teacher's teacher, to, you know, her teacher, and on all the way to, you know, Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. You can do this, and actually, if somebody was to be a student here at the school in Anguilla, you could do that, because Tim's teacher is learned from teachers that sort of fit into that tree. My teacher Tim is the one who's going to come down and teach here.
So why Anguilla? Several islands around the world, countries. Why Anguilla?
So my wife and I met in the Caribbean, in Turks and Caicos, and ever since we did, that was 19 years ago, we've been looking for an ideal place to build a home. And as soon as we found out about Anguilla, we knew without hesitation that this is the place. And a lot of that, it's a beautiful island. Everybody knows that. But until you come here, you don't realize just how really genuine and wonderful the people are. And you know, I guess we just sort of craved to be part of the island and of the culture, and wanted to do something really nice for some really nice people that have created a wonderful country.
And you decided to give back at least to the people of Anguilla. You built a beautiful home down at Little Bay area. How difficult was it? How easy it was to get this piece of land?
It's very difficult. But I think that's why, you know, that's part of why it's such a wonderful place. It's, you know, you don't have uncontrolled development, and it's very inclusive. You know, I think that's part of the charm. I think that the people who live here sort of feel an affinity to tourism and make outsiders feel very welcome. And that's something I've not experienced to this degree anyplace else, certainly in the Caribbean.
Tell us a bit about the art school now. We're going to see some video shots of it in a moment, but tell us a bit about it, when it's going to open, what is the current position of it?
It's under construction, the roof is on, the windows aren't in yet. We're starting to look at, you know, colors for the walls. I think we probably have a good 3-4 months of construction left, but it'll be done plenty early enough for our scheduled opening, which is, you know, the first quarter of 2012, maybe as early as January. It depends on enrollment. So right now we're really excited to get the word out and let people know that it's there and what the opportunity is, and make it clear that it's, you know, it's completely free. for Anguillans to come and study, and it's a really fantastic opportunity. I mean, this teaching method really works, and if anybody has any skepticism, I strongly encourage you to go to AniArtAcademies.com and look at the work that's being created by, these are students. These aren't 75-year-old, grandmaster painters. They are people that have been studying this method for just a couple of years. 3 years is all it takes. It's hard work. I'm not, I can't stress that enough. It can be tedious. The exercises, it's a lot of repetition, but the skill level is just, it's incredible, and it really empowers people to be able to paint whatever they choose to paint without any limitations at all. And that's where I think a lot of art education sort of fails people, is they don't, they learn the fun part, like color and stuff, but they never really get into the difficult part, which would be, rendering and perspective and, how to sort of capture form and communicate that on a flat surface. So we're trying to find 20 to 25 Anguillans that are motivated and have a certain work ethic to get through this stuff. People finishing high school or college, at that sort of they're in that school mode, but certainly are open to people. We can't go too young because it's just too difficult, and I don't want to distract anybody from their other studies. Yeah.
What would you say would be some of the immediate benefits of such an exercise, people involved in this? They might be going for a year or two, but what are some of the immediate benefits of the art school to Anguillans?
Well, I mean, it's a long-term project. It's gonna take a while for people to get good enough to be able to sell the paintings, but certainly, if somebody sticks with it it's 3 years, pretty much. At that point, they're going to be a very serious and accomplished artist, and it's a matter of just choosing how you want to express your inner voice and choosing what you want to paint. We're being very careful not to teach aesthetic. We don't want to say, like, okay, this is the way they paint in France, and this is what we want you to do. We want to teach people the power to paint whatever you want, and then encourage people here in Anguilla who have a very colorful and wonderful sense of beauty, and these things come out with the calypso and music and the carnival, and it's beautiful people with beautiful ideas and surrounded by incredible beauty. So I'm really excited to see how this transforms the island over the next 20, 30 years, because if it's a 3-year program, that's what, about 7 people a year. So in 20 years, you're talking over 100 great artists. And that's going to have a real impact on sort of the culture of the island, and it's not going to be our culture, New Jersey's culture. It's going to be Anguillan culture with the skill that is, look, nobody who works for Ani, invented art or art education. This man, Anthony Wycleff, he's a very, very gifted teacher, and a lot of my life has been centered around education in one way or another, and he's just the most gifted teacher of any kind I've been lucky enough to run across. And when I realized what he was doing, it just hit me. It's like, we have to do this. We have to create a way to get this information out to as many people around the world that have the work ethic to realize these dreams. And when I approached Anthony, he was just, he melted. He was like, this is the best thing ever. And that's a very generous thing, because not every artist wants to show all their secrets. And his paintings are really spectacular. They're very, it's called trompe-l'oeil. It means trick of the eye. And when you see one of the paintings in person, people always have the same reaction. They reach out to touch it because they don't believe, it doesn't look like a photograph. It's not like realism like a photograph. It's realism like realism. You think if there's, I have a painting of his that has like some jacks and dice in it, and people always reach out to see if they can like pick the jack up, and they know it's a painting, but it's just a subconscious thing.
What tools does he use? Charcoal? Does he use pencils or the paint?
So the first half of the program, or it's maybe between half and 2/3, is all black charcoal, white charcoal, and blue paper. And that's, there are these repetitive exercises that you do over and over again until you master them. And when you do, you move on to the next exercise. And that's always a very gratifying thing to be able to do. And so you learn, a lot of it has to do with, it's called value. It's how light and dark things are. And that's how your eye works. Your eye senses depth by changes in darkness. So you start to really learn that thoroughly just by simplifying. He's very great at taking incredibly complex things and saying, well, let's just simplify it so we don't have to think about it anymore and only learn this basic thing. And then you learn the next basic thing, and then you learn the next basic thing. So that when you are finally ready to move on to a paintbrush, it's all subconscious at that point. It's all muscle memory. It's like, I know how to do this. I don't have to think about it, which frees your mind to think about the art itself. Or there's a lot of problem solving in painting. So and then it's black and white paint, and then finally color. Color is just it's the last, when you get to the part with color, it's almost easy, because the real hard part is in this value control, and that's where I think a lot of art schools, they don't do justice to their students, because the students themselves want to play with color. It's fun, squirting tubes of paint out and looking at it.
But what do you say to someone who's out there looking at this interview and saying, oh, he's saying some nice, beautiful things about painting, either on his part, he's gone through it?
I actually haven't. I'm only not even a third of the way through. I work pretty long hours in New Jersey. I work on Wall Street, and so I'm only able to study for about 5 or 6 hours a week on Sunday. My teacher, Tim Jan, who's going to be running the school here, comes over to my house, and we do these exercises together. But even just doing these exercises, my ability